Hello, and welcome to even more impossible to reach places on Google Earth. These locations represent some of the most interesting parts of our planet that remain mostly unexplored to this day. The danger and difficulty required to visit these locations have left many of them shrouded in mystery. This top 10 list is the result of extensive research, scouring Google Earth, and contributions from you all. I have already stood at the edge of number 5, and number 1 is probably the strangest landscape in the entire world, home to a lost civilization, and where I would love to explore more than anywhere else, even Ulakan Sis. Number 10 is Ksar Draa in northern Algeria. This massive 3-story fortress stands alone in an endless expanse of sand dunes of the Sahara Desert. No one knows exactly who created it, when, or why. It may have served as a defensive structure for the ancient trading routes of nomads through the Sahara, but its unique geometric architecture and the presence of Jewish symbols only add more questions. The nearest human settlement is a small town over 20 miles to the west, and there are no roads anywhere nearby. However, some intrepid explorers have managed to get here to photograph it via plane and ATVs in recent years. As we will learn, travel in the Sahara Desert is treacherous for many reasons. Number 9 is Astronaut Canyon on Devon Island of northern Canada. This immense and starkly beautiful canyon gets its name due to its resemblance to surface features observed on Mars. It is a frigid and inhospitable place, completely devoid of terrestrial life. Researchers study it as an Earth analog for Martian exploration, making it a unique site for understanding planetary geology and Martian astrobiology. I found it while playing a game of GeoGuessr, because for some reason, Google has Street View here. Following the track of Street View gives you an insight into the only method of reaching this place. Boy, looks like a ton of fun. The nearest human settlement, Gryce Fjord, is more than 500 miles away, and a special research permit is required from the Canadian government to visit. Number 8 is the Arnhem Land in the Northern Territories of Australia. The immense expanse of rock, rivers, and jungle, east of Kakadu National Park, caught my eye on Google Earth. This place is reserved for the Aboriginal peoples of North Australia, including the Bininj and Yolngu people, who have lived there for tens of thousands of years. Deep in this labyrinth of sandstone exists perhaps the oldest evidence of ancient artwork and stoneworking in the entire world, dating back over 25,000 years ago. Most of it is probably undiscovered to this day. The strange crisscross geology would make traveling through the interior almost impossible. As this is Australia, it is filled with some of the most deadly animals in the world. Furthermore, it goes through intermittent periods of extreme flooding and intense drought. Explicit permission is required from the Aboriginals for an outsider to come here. And within this almost 10,000 square mile expanse, there is no infrastructure. The Aboriginal people are the only ones who have a knowledge on how to survive and explore this place, and they have done an amazing job of preserving the ancient secrets in its depths. It was a toss-up between this region and the nearby Buccaneer Archipelago, a jaw-dropping expanse of tropical coastline with over 800 islands and oceanic peninsulas, and home to phenomenon like the horizontal falls. Deep in the bays here, you could find pristine beaches that almost no humans have ever set foot on. But ultimately, it is possible to visit this place with a high-dollar boat tour or charter, so it didn't make the final cut. Number 7 is the Patomskiy crater in southeastern Siberia. It was actually mentioned by 3 of you in my last video, so thanks y'all. This is a bizarre 130 foot tall and 520 foot wide pile of shattered limestone deep in the taiga forests of Siberia, Russia. It was probably formed around 250 to 350 years ago and was first known to the local Evenk people, who strictly avoided it and believed it was a place of evil. The first researcher to stumble upon it was a geologist in 1949, and since then, only a couple expeditions have managed to reach it, but those have only raised more questions than answers. For example, in 2005, a geophysicist on his way to study it, Evgeny Vorobyov, inexplicably kicked the bucket about 3 miles away from reaching it. It is commonly referred to as a crater, but this is misleading because there are no traces of meteor material nearby, and its structure looks unlike any known craters. Remaining theories state it could be the result of a volcanic or gas explosion, and fringe theories would have you believe it is linked to extraterrestrial origins and something is buried underneath. Trees surrounding the crater exhibit periods of unusual and accelerated growth, similar to observations near the Chernobyl nuclear disaster site. But no unusual amount of radiation has been detected here. The fact we still don't know answers about the origin of it points towards it being a logistical nightmare to get there. Number 6 is the Infinity Portal in California. This futuristic-looking shape is located in the eastern California desert in the China Lake Military Complex. This thing became briefly viral on social media a couple years ago when people believed it was a top-secret portal being used by the government, and that's where it got its name. While I love that theory, the boat by the side of it gives clues to its actual purpose. It is most likely a dark body of water used for aquatic target practice by the military. But actually, the most intriguing area here, and where I have attempted to find ways to visit in the past, is the volcanic canyon just north of it, where exists possibly the greatest concentration of ancient petroglyphs in the world, with an estimated over 20,000 of them in just this one valley. We can no longer go here because the China Lake military boundary has now extended to encompass this valley, and they have restricted public visitation indefinitely. Number 5 is the depths of the Owyhee Canyonlands in the western United States. Not a lot of people know that the second largest canyon system in the U.S. is located near the intersection of Oregon, Idaho, and Nevada. The Owyhee Canyons spiderweb across the desert, covering an expanse of almost 4,000 square miles. While the main tributaries are popular whitewater river routes, the numerous side tributaries that contain less water are almost completely impenetrable to human exploration because the walls of the canyon often drop off in 1,000-foot-tall cliffs. Recently, I drove down one of the dirt roads to take a look while wildfires raged on nearby. What you are looking at represents a tiny fraction of 1% of what the entire canyon system looks like. For such a massive area, there are only 3 paved roads that travel nearby, and only a handful of trails that actually lead down to the bottom. Even still, within the labyrinth, there is an abundance of ancient history and biodiversity, including the largest herd of California bighorn sheep in the U.S., as well as over 1,200 plant species, 26 of which are endemic just to this one area, such as the rare Owyhee clover. It is a very inhospitable place where temperatures soar in the summer and plummet in the winter. Many of the interior reaches of these countless side canyons will remain unexplored, possibly forever. Number 4 is the Barhout Pit in eastern Yemen. Located in the vast desolation of the Al Mahra Desert, this is a 100-foot wide, almost perfectly circular hole that opens up seemingly into nothingness. Since recorded history, it had remained unexplored, and no one knew how deep it went. Apparently, it emits a terrible smell, which contributed to its supernatural reputation amongst locals as a dwelling place for bad spirits. Only in 2021 was it first ascended by a group of explorers who found in its depths remains of animals that have fallen in for thousands of years and cave formations. The pictures from the inside are unbelievable. It is one of the most unique geologic formations in the world, but it is an insanely remote location in a war-torn country that is highly dangerous to visit as an outsider. Number 3 is the Burkhan Khaldun mountain in northern Mongolia. While not the biggest or most impressive mountain, Burkhan Khaldun was once the source of inspiration and spiritual power for the greatest conqueror in history, Genghis Khan. Before every major campaign into new territories, Genghis Khan would retreat to this holy mountain in private to consult with the god of the open blue sky and receive guidance on his next steps. If you have spent a lot of time in nature, you may have had a spiritual experience in places that become significant to you. Undoubtedly, Genghis Khan had many of these from the top of this mountain. For someone who had access to almost half the known world and the beautiful expanses of Asia, to consistently come back here for inspiration points towards it being a spectacular location. Also, it was almost certainly where he was buried in extreme secrecy. The Mongolian government has set this place aside as a sacred nature reserve, primarily only allowed to be visited by Mongolians. To get there requires many days of horseback travel into the farthest reaches of the steppes. To this day, it remains one of the most pristine, untouched by modern industry, havens of nature in non-Arctic climates in the world. Here, the grass blows in the wind, the crickets buzz, and the horses roam free, much the same as they did during the life of the most powerful man in history. For that reason, I would love to see it. Number 2 is Nahanni National Park in Canada's Northwest Territories. Where to even begin with this place? This immense national park covers a whopping 11,500 square miles, roughly the size of Belgium. Within these massive expanses of Arctic mountains exist geologic spectacles, such as waterfalls twice the height of Niagara Falls, pristine lakes, and massive caves extending deep into the karst limestone. Most amazingly, in my opinion, are the yawning chasms in between the mountains that look like something from Lord of the Rings, such as Scimitar Canyon. This canyon was only ever descended by humans once, which is how we get these pictures. Something about this mountain range seems so different from any others. Also, it has a strange and terrifying history. Once again, the Dene indigenous people seem to know something about this place and warned about evil spirits haunting this region. Stories of rich bounties of gold lured many prospectors out in the early 1900s. In 4 separate events, prospectors were confirmed to have met a grisly demise and were found with their heads separated from their bodies. Since then, rumors of bizarre fatalities continue to happen for those trying to find riches in Nahanni. Even though it has some of the most impressive scenery in the world, almost no one goes here. The park averages less than 1,000 visitors every year, and that is probably just to see the main parts of the park, like Virginia Falls. The vast majority of the park is unreachable, even to the most advanced explorers, and remains uncharted to this day. The terrain is just too vast and rugged. There are no roads leading directly to the park. The nearest towns, Yellowknife and Simpson, are hundreds of kilometers away, meaning the only way to access it is via multi-day river expeditions, float plane, or helicopter. At least, when you arrive, you won't be alone. The grizzlies and wolves will keep you company. Finally, number 1 is the Ennedi Plateau in northern Chad, in Africa. In the heart of the hottest and most desolate expanse of the Sahara Desert exists a vast, elevated plateau of alien rock formations. It is about 24,000 square miles in area, or about the size of Switzerland. Only pictures can demonstrate the mind-bending geology, which is a result of it being an ancient seabed that was uplifted millions of years ago. There are parts of it that look like infinite mazes of rock. There are parts that look like the surface of an alien planet. And there are oases in the canyons, known as gueltas, where water supports tiny pockets of life and rare species like the endangered Sahara crocodile. As far as I can tell, These spots you are seeing are in the known, comparatively accessible parts closest to civilization, in a tiny southwestern corner of the plateau. The rest is unknown to the world. There are said to be rock formations deep in the labyrinths here that take on every shape imaginable, like animals, faces, and humanoid figures. On the sandstone walls exists the artwork of ancient humans dating back 12,000 years ago, depicting animals that no longer live here, like giraffes, antelope, and elephants. This points towards something incredible. The whole area was once a lush, water-filled paradise. Now imagine these rock formations, but surrounded by dense vegetation, covered in vines, flocks of birds, and animals of all kinds. This is how the Ennedi Massif once looked before the Sahara dried up, and people were there to witness it. It may have been home to a thriving civilization. Even though it may be one of the most beautiful places on the planet, it is estimated that over 75% of it remains unexplored to this day. It is one of the hottest places on Earth. Reaching this place would be a serious challenge. It starts with securing the right permits, arranging guides, charting flights to Chad's capital city, followed by potentially dangerous days and days worth of off-road travel through the unforgiving Sahara to finally reach the plateau. And if something happens to your car and it breaks down out here, good luck. Even upon arriving, the clock would be ticking. Every moment spent exploring this vast expanse of rock eats away at your limited resources in a place that would take a lifetime to uncover all of its secrets. Of course, few travel agencies claim they can get you here, but the price tags look enormous, and I'm a bit skeptical of their promises. One final bonus for you all. Just northwest of this plateau is the Tibesti Mountains. I'm going to leave you with the task of looking at this area from above on Google Earth. It has some of the most unbelievable looking landscapes and mountains anywhere on the world. This place is far more unexplored and far harder to reach. So in all reality, this should take number one. I definitely would have chosen this place over the Ennedi, if not for my love of bizarre rock formations that define the Ennedi Plateau. After seeing all of this, I have done a lot of research into potential travel in northern Chad. I mean, I would love to see this place more than almost anywhere in the world. It really confirms my belief that the reality that we live in is stranger than most science fiction. Along with all the environmental considerations, there are a lot of human factors to consider when traveling in the Sahara. There's a lot of terror activity, kidnappings, and civil unrest. Someday, I hope to go out here and see it for myself and share it with you all. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to let me know down below and subscribe to the POV channel. I mentioned this in a previous video, but I'm still working on reaching one of the impossible to reach locations I covered in my last Impossible to Reach Places video. As always, have a good rest of your day.